are what create massive, awesome change in your life. So, Amy, you're going to be more in charge of this call, but I be on and off as much as possible. But
Makey babies. So, yeah. So like Wendy said, we're in the middle of Fiji, right? How weird is that? And we're walking up to a waterfall, and up comes Siri, and she says, "Oh, are you guys athletes?" And here I get super excited because that was like my goal term the entire year, was to be an athlete instead of just a fit mom, so I could really take my fitness to the next level. So as we get to talking, she mentions that she was an ambassador for the launch of Beachbody Performance Line, and I was like, how in the world, in the middle of Fiji, did we just make this amazing connection? And that's the way that awesome way that life works sometimes. So anyhow, Siri just got home from Date with Destiny, and so Wendy and I can both attest, and some of you who will be going, I know, this upcoming year, can attest that you come out of Date with Destiny absolutely glowing with enlightened, amazing everything, and at the same time your face might look a little bit like a zombie and your whole body has been through quite a bit the entire week prior. So Siri's joining us by phone this morning, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute her. And Siri, can you hear me?
I can, and you guys, thank you so much for having me on. Like, I feel so honored to be on this call, and I did, when I met you both in Fiji, I was like, whoa, now these girls are athletes. And I knew it, and I wanted to talk to you because you were just glowing. And meanwhile, we were all fasting or cleansing, and but it was just serendipity, I think, that brought us all together. But I'm thrilled to be on the phone call today. And everyone, I'm not someone that is like all into my looks and stuff, because I'm just a very average looking girl. But honest to God, I came home and we have a horse rescue here, and I was so excited to see my favorite horse, and my favorite horse kisses me on the lips. And I love it because no horses do that. But this time, I think she was so excited that she took a big, huge chunk out of my lips. So that is really the biggest reason why I'm not on camera today. But thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
And really quick before you get started, guys, it was funny. And Siri, I have to tell you, I think you were kind of playing quiet in Fiji, because the next thing I hear, we come home from Fiji, and Siri was actually a guest speaker at Leadership Academy for Tony Robbins in Coronado, which is incredible, another amazing event. And then she got to come talk to us in the crew room at the last UPW event that was just here in West Palm. And I knew she was awesome just by her vibe, by just her accolades and that type thing, but I hadn't even heard half of her story at that point. And so, I mean, I was just blown away times 10, Siri, by getting to hear a little bit. So whatever you'd like to share today, the mic, the floor, the phone is all yours. And we're just, again, really thankful for you getting on after such a hectic week.
Oh my God, I've been looking forward to this ever since Fiji. So thank you guys for having me. But first of all, Beachbody has been something that I now coach a bunch of athletes who are world champions. We have some former Olympic medalists, and Beachbody has been the one thing that we rely on. We're not into, I don't take any supplements or stuff like that. We're just into real healthy eating and respecting and loving your body. But the Beachbody products, such as, most importantly, like recharge and recovery, and we use them a lot. So you guys are all a part of something really exceptional. And I have been an ambassador for Beachbody for the last 2 years. And it's been so easy because, as you all know, when you believe in something, all you want to do is share what it's done for you and why you love it. So I'm glad that we all share a passion for Beachbody, and obviously what all you do is so fabulous as well, because we all want to feel great in our lives. We all want to give our bodies what they need so that we can perform to the best of our abilities and be able to give back and be the best that we can be for the people we love and care about, and for this world. So I honor all of you for all that you're doing. And it really is, it's awesome to be a part of a call that has a lot of like-minded, passionate individuals. So thank you. I could sit here and talk all day long. So I would love for you guys to just lead me wherever you feel I can add the most value, but otherwise we will be here for the next 24 hours. So I warn you all.
That's great. And, you know, just really quickly on the performance line note, I know a lot of times it almost comes to a lot of us as a secondary product, you know, because we are so accustomed to Shakeology, and that was kind of a line that was introduced after the fact. But, you know, I hope you guys realize, like, world-class athletes are not only endorsing, but loving on this product. And so it's something that you guys definitely want to focus in on a little bit more and educate yourselves with a little bit more. And don't be afraid. And Siri, I know I'm guilty of this too. Like, a lot of times the triathlete community is very tight-knit. And so even though I'm and Wendy as well, and Kara, who's on the line, marathon runners, you know, we still get a little bit intimidated to even approach the triathletes sometimes, because it's like, you know, what are they going to think? But, you know, I'd encourage all of us to continue just, you know, encouraging them to give it a try and really, you know, experience the difference in their performance and their training regimen and everything else. But
Absolutely. And I think all of us, I mean, I don't think triathletes are any more special. I think that all of us that are out trying to, you know, be the best that we can be, are all putting in the same heart, the same soul, the same time, the same effort. And that it's as important for every single one of us, no matter what sport you do, whether you're just doing classes, whether you're a triathlete, or whether you're like a Olympic gold medalist marathoner. Like, it's all that we're all working hard to give our bodies what they need to be their very best. And I think, you know, that is equally important all around the globe for all of us.
Absolutely. Wendy popped in with a couple of questions really quick. Okay. All right. So her questions, I think you're probably going to answer, but I would love, I don't know how much you can condense it, but I mean, when you just shared your story with us as far as, you know, your own personal life in the crew room, I thought that was just absolutely amazing. I don't know if that's something you feel comfortable getting into or not, but I mean, that as well as just something that was hugely impactful, just to hear from you about overcoming adversity and you know, really pushing yourself to move on to the level that you've become at this point.
I would love to share that. So for all of you, I mean, basically as a kid, I grew up just a very, very fearful, insecure, anxiety-ridden girl. First 20 years of my life, really. And I'm sure all of you can relate to a certain time in your life where perhaps on the outside, you know, everything looked great. You know, I was going to an Ivy League university. I was a good student. I was a 3-sport athlete. And I'm sure that people thought, wow, you know, she's got it made. And, you know, she's so blessed in her life. But on the inside, my world on the inside was dark and sad and scared, and no self-confidence, no love for myself. And I found myself in a place at 20 years old where I literally was afraid to be in my own body. And it was terrifying. And especially because I also was really, you know, tortured by the fact that I knew that on the outside my life was great. I knew how lucky I was to have these opportunities. And I felt like I was, you know, such a bad person for being so unhappy. So I was fighting with all these things inside of myself. But the most important thing, just not feeling safe in my own body. And that's when, at 20 years old, I was in the Brown University library. I honestly felt like I didn't know if I had enough strength to keep pushing through what I was feeling. And I found this book, Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. It was the first book he ever wrote. And I started reading it like ferociously, because everything that he was saying, it was like so simple, but it was so powerful. And the most important thing, he was saying that everything that's real and everything that is possible is what you believe is real and what you believe is possible. And he had the whole idea of what you focus on is what you're going to receive, what you focus on is what you're going to experience. And all I focused on all day, every day, is how much pain I was in, how scared I felt, how worried I was. I worried about things that I had no control over. I worried about my health, my family's health. I actually had this like debilitating OCD, these rituals that had become my entire life because I was so afraid and I needed an outlet. And in that, not moment, but I was reading this book and taking it all in, and I realized, my God, like, I can change my life like right now. Like, I actually am in charge of my life. It's not that I sit here and life is happening to me. Like, I am the one that is meant to be the creator of my own symphony of life. And like, I need to take responsibility here. And in that moment, I decided I'm going to create a great life. I am going to, focus on, yes, I'm afraid, but I'm going to do something now every day that scares me, not in a way where I'm focusing on things that scare me, things I have no control over, but I'm going to actually go and do something that scares me. Whether that means, I was so shy and so insecure that I would never go up to someone that I thought looked nice and could possibly like become a friend. And so it started with doing something as small as, hey, I'm going to go up to that person that looks really nice and say, hey, my name is Siri. Where are you from? And then each day I started taking on, bigger things, scarier things. And soon after this kind of breakthrough or insight, I decided that during my summer break, I was going to go get a job at Club Med. And long story, I don't know if any of you guys have been to Club Med, but it's like this resort, and you go, and there's the people that work there are like, getting you out of your chairs and getting you to go do water aerobics. And they're so like extroverted and like crazy, out there. And we had gone on vacation about 5 years earlier. And I thought, God, like, how did these people have the courage to like, come out and just talk to you and they don't know you and tell you to do something, even though they don't know if you want to or not. And I loved that. And I decided I am going to, on the application, first of all, it asked if you're an introvert or an extrovert. And I was a total introvert, but I marked extrovert. And then it said, do you speak another language? And yes, I had, taken French for the last 12 years in school, but I couldn't speak it. But of course I wrote fluent in French. And what I was doing in this moment is I was deciding that I was going to try this on for size and see what it felt like. They accepted my application. I went off to Ixtapa, Mexico. And I decided that from the moment I stepped off the plane, this is the person I was going to be. Now, it wasn't me acting and trying to pretend to be something that I wasn't. It was that there was something about the extroverts and the passion and the excitement and the enthusiasm that drew me to it. I felt like I'm going to try this on for size because I feel like somewhere deep inside of me, this is a part of me. And so I forced myself, I was terrified, but I forced myself to take this job. And then literally from the moment I stepped off the airplane, it was like, okay, everybody, let's do water aerobics. And they were looking at me like I was crazy. But what would happen is, I would break through and with, excitement and enthusiasm and kindness and whatever, they would come out of their shell and they'd end up having like the best time of their life. So, I was trying this on for size, and it was like, okay, cool, that's a part of me too. And so I decided to just figure out, like, who am I? Now that I am deciding to step away, not step away from my fear, but I guess dance with my fear, realizing that the only way we're going to grow, the only way that we're going to make progress in our lives and truly become the people that we're meant to become is to be afraid, but do it anyway. And that's what I was deciding to do. And that's at the point after I graduated from college, well, two things happened. The first thing that happened is my father found out that I was gay. And at 23 years old, I got a phone call from my father, and he's in floods of tears, and he's begging me, saying, Siri, please tell me this isn't true. My daughter can't be gay. There's no possible way that I could have a daughter that's gay. And I said, Dad, I'm gay. This is who I am. I didn't choose this. This is like, I can't fight it any longer. I don't know what to say. And he was so devastated and so angry that he didn't talk to me for 2 years. And the biggest thing, besides the hurt and just feeling so rejected, is I felt that everything that I had achieved up until that point meant absolutely nothing now that the truth came out that I was gay. And in that moment, it was so devastating to feel worthless, even though I had worked so hard to kind of achieve the things that I did. And so we all sit here and you're probably like, oh, that ass, what a jerk. Like, how could he do that? But when I look back now, what I realize is, and this is something that Tony Robbins goes through a lot, when somebody has hurt us or rejected us or denied us love in a way that feels so unfair and so unjust, if you look back at those people or those times or those experiences, like had my father been the father I wished he had been, I would not be the person I am today. And what Tony Robbins has always kind of, expressed to all of us that have been hurt is when we forgive the people that have hurt us, even if what they've done seems unforgivable, when we forgive them, we free ourselves. And that's the most important thing. Is yes, it's nice to forgive someone, but mostly you're freeing yourself from holding on to that and having that hold you back in your own life. But then it's also thanking them. And one of the biggest breakthroughs I had this last year was, and when Tony Robbins said this to a group of people, he's like, okay, well, first you need to forgive these people, but then you need to thank them. And I was like, screw you. What are you talking about? How am I going to thank him for doing this to me? But when I looked back and really thought about it, it's like, because he reacted in that way, that became the catalyst for me to want to be everything that I knew deep in my heart I was meant to be in this lifetime. I needed to go out and prove that I was lovable and I was a kind, good person. And even though I was gay, I deserved to be loved. I deserved to have love, feel love, give love. I deserved to be successful. I deserved to be able to achieve things. Like, being gay was not going to be something that was going to make me feel worthless. So because of the father that he became in that moment, he was exactly the worthy opponent, the father I needed him to be, to get me to believe in myself more and want more for me, want to go out and show that I could find love, show that I could be loved, give love, show that I could inspire people and be a great role model. So honestly, I am thankful for him for having been the catalyst for me to want more in my own life from myself, which is kind of when I took up the sport of triathlon. I didn't even know how to swim when I was 23 years old. But I had gone, a friend had asked me to come watch this triathlon she was doing. And I literally had no clue at all what a triathlon was, but I went, and it was the most incredible thing I had ever witnessed in my life. it was people of all shapes and sizes and ages and races, but they were all out there. And what I felt from every single person that was out there is, yes, it looked painful and it looked hard, but they looked so alive. They looked like they were on this mission. They were achieving something that they never thought they could do. And it was so inspiring to me that as soon as I left that day, I decided that this was going to be my mission. I was going to become a triathlete. I was going to master this sport. But I have to say to all of you, and it's a long story of literally how bad I was. I couldn't swim. I learned how to swim when I was 23. I learned how to like truly ride a bike.
I love this.
And I had to.
I'm glad you're saying. I was going to say, I hope she shares this part, because this is where a lot of us start. You know, we're of age, we can't learn anything new, but go for it. I love this part.
So do you want to actually hear the story of my first race?
Yes, do it. I love it.
Okay. And let me tell all of you, I am not exaggerating. This is how bad I was. Okay. So you have to really, really understand that I am being so sincere and not exaggerating any part of this story. So I pick up this sport, and the only kind of swimming I knew was the swan. I don't know if you guys know how swans swim, but my mom had taught me, she had this beautiful blonde hair, and she never wanted to get it waxed. It took her a long time to get it to look that way. So the swan swim is when you're swimming under the water, but your neck is stretched out so that her hair was being kept dry. That's the only swimming I knew how to do. Anyhow, I take up this sport. My friend decides she's going to coach me. She was, literally shocked when I first got in the pool. And she's like, okay, I want you to swim 50 meters and show me what you've got. And there I was, like, furiously, like, throwing my arms around with my head out of the water. And she's like, oh, God, this is going to be more of a project than I thought. Anyhow, I start kind of picking it up. And I decide I want to do my first race far away from anyone that I knew. And at the time I lived in Massachusetts. So I flew out to Colorado to where my mom was living, and told her that I was going to do my first race, and she couldn't wait to be a part of it. So it starts out, first of all, the night before. Now I'd done a lot of reading in the magazines, and I'd heard about carbo loading. And I thought, well, I'm doing a race, so I'm going to need to carbo load. This is something I need to master. Now, those of you that don't know what a triathlon is, it's swim, bike, run. And the race that I had chosen was the shortest race you can do. It's a sprint race, which is a half a mile swim, a 12-mile bike, and a 3-mile run. But I had heard that you need to carbo load. So we go off to the grocery store. We're buying pasta and garlic bread and cookies, a little bit of chicken for some protein for my muscles, and some broccoli for, or spinach for extra strength. Anyhow, that night, my mom is watching me eat and is just like, oh my God, are you sure you need to eat this much? And I'm like, yes, I need carbo load. I need all the energy. Literally, I go to bed that night having eaten a box of pasta, a loaf of garlic bread, 3 cookies that I could barely fit into my mouth, because I thought that this is what I was supposed to be doing. Now, the next morning, I arrive at the race site, so excited to put on my flashy new race suit, little Speedo swimsuit. And I'm getting in my swimsuit, and it already was not a great sign when I get in, and literally it starts ripping down the side. So now it looks like I have what do you call those suits that are like a bikini and a one piece? a tank. Yeah. So my suit has become one of those because I carbo loaded so much. I was so bloated. But we step up to register for the registration, and it's a desk, and everybody is lining up. Like there's a huge line forming behind me. And I get up to the desk, and they're like, okay, we need to figure out what lane you're going to be in, because the swim is going to be done in a pool. And they're like, what's your 100-meter time? And I was like, 100-meter time? I don't understand what you mean. Now the line is building. Like every second, there's like 5 more people getting in line, and they're really anxious and, irritated by me. And I'm like, I just don't understand. What do you mean? And they're like, you know, is it 130, 125, 120, 115? I'm like, I don't know, 115, 115. And they're like, okay, so you're in lane 1 at whatever time. And I'm like, okay, great. So excited. I get to the front of the line, you know, my toes curling over the edge of the pool. And I'm looking around me, and there's all these men with like these gorgeous, muscular, triangular backs and big shoulders. And I'm like, my friend told me about this. She said that sometimes the people that look the fittest, look the strongest, have the best bodies are the slowest. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm like, these guys look great, but you know, they're probably not that good. And I'm just so excited that I can't see straight. I just can't wait to get going. So the gun goes off and I jump in because of course I don't know how to dive. And literally within 20 seconds, all I feel are like elbows and feet and people kicking me and punching me, and I'm getting thrown into the lane line. And it was just like I was creating complete chaos because I could not swim. And these people were like these unbelievable swimmers, and they're swimming all over me. It's not bothering me. I've never felt so alive in my life. I'm just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And like the best part was that after, when I was done with like 4 lengths, and the whole swim was like 32 lengths because it was 800 meters. At the time I was just doing it as lengths. By the time I'd finished 4, they were all done. So I had the whole lane to myself, and I was just like so stoked. I finally had all this space. I finished the swim, and my mom's on the side of the pool, and she's got my spandex pants, and she's got them like stretched out so that I can jump right in them. And she's like, Siri, over here. And I run over, and I'm trying to put my wet leg into the spandex, and I fall down, and the referees are yelling, there's no outside assistance allowed, stop. And they're yelling at my mom. My mom's crying, and I'm trying to get my spandex, trying to get on my bike. And it was like chaos. But again, I just felt so alive. And I take off on my bike. And I don't know if you women out there have ever tried to put on spandex when you're wet. It's not a good idea. Anyhow, I've got one spandex leg literally all the way down to my calf, and then the other side is like all the way up my thigh. I've got a camel toe. I'm a disaster, but I'm not thinking about any of that. My helmet's crooked. I get on the bike, and I'm pushing as hard as I can. And I just remember this course as being like mountainous and hilly and grinding, and I'm having to, you know, just use all my strength to get up and over the hills. Just a side note, I went back 10 years later because I'm like, oh, I want to see that first race I did. Not a hill in sight, flat as a freaking pancake. So, but that's how hard it was for me. It was my first race. I get out onto the run, and all I knew was how to sprint after a ball on the lacrosse field or sprint after a puck on the ice. So I managed the 5K run just by going as hard and as fast as I could for as long as I could. And then I would like bend over, like hyperventilating, gagging, saliva everywhere. And then I do it again as soon as I caught my breath. So the whole 5K was just like these 100-meter sprints of like, you know, everything I had, arms flailing. Now, all I remember on that day was the fact that I had never, ever felt so alive and so challenged and so free. And I'll take the story out. Let me finish the race off first. So I cross the line, and my mom's there, and she gives me a huge hug, and she's so proud of me. And then she's like, I've got all our stuff packed in the car. Let's go have lunch. And I'm like, no, but the awards are at 1:00. Like, we need to stay for the awards. And I was like last across the line, like truly last across the line. And my mom's looking at me like, oh my God, she thinks she's going to win an award. But we wait and we stay until 1:00. Of course, I don't win an award, but I'm just like, I don't care. I'm just so happy and so proud of myself for like the first time ever. We get home that night, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but for me, when I get in bed at night, it's when I become my most vulnerable. It's when I start thinking about, you know, what really happened during that race. And that's when I start seeing the looks of irritation on people's faces when we were lining up to register, the looks of the guys laughing behind me when I'm standing at the front at the pool ready to dive in when they know I can't swim, and they're like laughing at me thinking, you know, who does she think she is? And then, you know, the people laughing at my camel toe, which of course it is kind of funny, but it, you know, whatever. They're like laughing at me and pointing at me. And then the people, you know, thinking, oh my God, what is she doing? Why is she doing a triathlon? And then like on the run, like, you know, how kids can be, you know, they can be kind of mean, you know, and they're like, oh my God, gag me with a spoon. Look at her. Like, oh my God, how embarrassing. And all the looks on people's faces and not looking at me or covering their eyes or trying not to laugh, and the pity, and all of this is coming back to me now. Everything that I wasn't seeing in that moment because I was just embracing the experience, but suddenly it hits me and I just break down in tears. I am crying so hard and just like floods of tears. I can't even talk. I go into my mom's bedroom and I'm just hyperventilating, crying, tears everywhere. And she's like, oh, honey, I know, but you did it. And I'm so proud of you. And now let's just do something that you know you're good at. And I said, Mom, no, you don't get it. You don't get it. I am going to be the best in the world in this sport. And she looked at me like, oh my God, like, where is this coming from? And I don't even know where this came from, but all I know that it came from my heart. And it was like, for the first time in my life, I was actually backing myself. For the first time in my life, I was actually believing that maybe I could do this. And she said to me, she said, okay, I'll give you 2 years and you can just give it everything you have, but promise me if after 2 years it's not headed in the direction you thought it would, that you will take up something else. And I promised her that. And here's the thing, everybody. I truly believe, and I am now living proof, that no matter what you dream of achieving in your life, no matter how impossible it seems, it is so very possible when you commit to it and you decide that you will do whatever it takes with all your heart and soul. You are willing to fail. You are willing to fall. You are willing to make a fool out of yourself. You are willing to do whatever it takes to make this happen. I believe that if you come up with that agreement and you commit to that, that anything you dream of is possible. And I am living proof of that. But there were certain things that had to happen for this to work out for me. And number one was the power of that statement, the power of sharing it with someone, the power of becoming accountable to this dream, not just to myself, but, you know, having the courage to say it to someone that you love and care about. And the second thing was completely changing my definition of failure. And what my philosophy became was, I'm either winning or I'm learning. Not I'm winning or losing or winning or failing. I am either winning or I am learning, because I knew that I was going to have so many obstacles. I was going to be disappointed so many times. I was going to fail so many times. But every time we fail, every time we fall short, every time we go through something so incredibly hard, that is when we grow the most. That is when we learn the most. That's when we make the most progress. That is what brings us to that next step. And so that philosophy for me became everything, because what I did know is that this desire, this goal gave me so much emotion and passion and determination that I was going to do whatever it took. And it could have felt like this incredible sacrifice, because literally I put everything I had into this one goal. But it wasn't a sacrifice, because I was investing in me. I was investing in my future. And the biggest thing about my time through the sport, basically in 10 years, I kept growing. I kept learning. I ultimately won the world championship. I became the #1 athlete in the world for 2 years in a row. And when I retired at #1 in the world. And it was the greatest moment in my life, not because I became a world champion, but I think for the first time in my life, I felt a love and appreciation for myself that I had been craving my entire life. And so triathlon, for me, it wasn't about the swim, bike, and run. It was about finding myself. It was the vehicle through which I found myself. And for the first time, I truly backed myself. I had truly stepped up and took action towards something that I so desperately wanted to achieve. And that gave me a respect and an appreciation for myself, a trust in myself, a belief in myself, by not giving up, by not giving in to everybody who told me I would never make it, by not giving into that, and by backing myself. That single thing that I did, just backing myself and believing in me and being afraid, but doing it anyway, that completely changed the entire direction of my life. And so for all of you, whatever that dream is for you, and no matter how unworthy you may feel, as we all do this to ourselves, we feel unworthy. We feel like, oh, it can't be me. Why can't it be you? Why can't it be you? Whoever told you that it can't be you? And maybe there were people that said it can't be you. But you know what? You know in your heart that you have been given this gift of life. You have been given such great strength and beauty. And when you decide to tap into all of that, when you decide to use every single part of who you are and not leave any part of yourself on the bench, but to celebrate every part of who you are and believe that if you put all of that forward, you can achieve anything you dream of. If you become the voice that says you can, and you become the voice that says, yeah, it's going to be hard, but we're going to do it anyway, and we're never going to give up, you will achieve anything you dream of in your life. And we all think that in our lives, we need the support of other people, and we do. Yes, that helps, and yes, that's amazing. But first and foremost, you've got to support yourself. You've got to love yourself, and you've got to believe in yourself first and foremost, because I know the thing that we all want most in life is to be loved and to share love and to feel loved. And one thing I had realized in those first actually 30 years of my life is that I was never, ever going to have the love I dreamed of having until I loved myself first. And that love came from taking a chance on me. And I'm forever grateful that I had the courage to do that, because that is what changed my life. And that is what has allowed me to experience the greatest gift I could ever receive. And that is the love of my wife, who is my everything. But until I loved myself, I was never, ever going to be able to love someone else in the way that I not only want to, but need to in order to keep them around. So I'll stop there because I can go on forever, and it's weird because I can't hear any voices, and I'm like, are you guys asleep? Are you sleeping or are you here?
We're chatting in the message.
Yeah,
I know you can't see any of us, but all absolutely. I mean, these are things that we hear, but it's sometimes just really reminding ourselves that it's when we make that decision. And I'm sure after that first wonderful race of yours, your very first race, I'm sure there was more races and more, challenges that came up, and as there would be with any big goal or anything like that. And I don't know, and maybe you can speak to if you questioned yourself at some point, or if you just stayed determined and focused, or, what that kind of looked like between that race #1 to world champion. I mean, that's such an incredible.
Yeah. There were so many challenges, and every challenge required me to either give up on myself or believe in myself. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time, so a couple years later, I got into my first World Cup race. And I'll never forget, like I was racing for like, 26th place or something, but I passed this really skinny American girl, and we all had our USA uniforms on, and I passed this real skinny American who was in 26th or whatever it was, and I finished in 25th, just ahead of her. And she came up to me and she's like, wow, you can run for a big girl. And I remember feeling so, I looked down at myself, and then I looked down at her, and I didn't respond to her at all, but I looked and I was like, oh God, I really am. I'm huge, aren't I? And thought, how did I do that? I started doubting myself, like, wow, I must have just got lucky that I was able to pass her, and she's so skinny and fit. And so suddenly body image gets involved. And then I moved on. Eventually I had these unbelievable coaches, mentors. We need them. We need them to take us to the next level. We need them to help guide us and help us grow and help us become who we're meant to be. My first coach was amazing, because what she always said to me is, Siri, I will always care more about who you are as a human being than who you are as an athlete. As you get better, I don't care how many races you win if you're not a kind, generous, giving, encouraging, compassionate person to others. She said, if you're not any of those things, I don't care if you become the best in the world. It means nothing to me, because all I care about is the person you are. And that was the most valuable and incredible lesson ever, because I always cared more about who I was and didn't define myself as an athlete. I looked upon how I felt about myself was in direct proportion to, how I was as a human being. Then I moved on to other coaches, and eventually I went to the best coach in the world, and I wanted to be the best. I wanted to learn from the best. And I can't believe he took me on, but he happened to be at a race where I was in like 25th place, and we're in the last 400 meters of the race, and I'm destroying myself to come in 24th place. And he said he noticed that. He said, I love that you were nowhere near the front of the race, yet you were absolutely giving everything you had to finish one step higher up. So he took me on, and I was, it was his coaching that literally took me from being at that point a pretty good athlete to winning races and becoming number one in the world. But another body image thing that came up is, it was my first day in Switzerland where he had his training camp. And to this point, I felt pretty good about my body. And I never really thought, until that girl had said that in that race, I actually thought I looked pretty good. My body was doing amazing things. I was able to do a triathlon. I was able to feel strong and fit and get faster every day. So I felt good about myself. But that girl got in my head. And then shortly after, I go to this coach, and on day one, we're at the swimming pool, and he puts a scale in the middle of the room and says, okay, team, everybody get in a circle, and Siri, we're going to weigh you. And they're all in a circle around me. These are athletes that I admired and had so much respect for. They were some of the best athletes in the world. And I had to step on a scale in front of all of them. And I step on the scale, and before I even see the number, he yells out to everyone, okay, everybody, just notice this. Look at her rabbits in a sack. And I was like, what are rabbits in a sack? I didn't even know what they were. And then he looks down at the number, and he yells out the number, and he said, she has rabbits in a sack because this is how much she weighs. Do you think she's ever going to be the best athlete in the world looking and weighing this? And completely, I was just humiliated. I was just devastated. And then it was time to dive in the pool, and he's like, okay, everybody, let Siri get in first, because otherwise if you're in there and she jumps in, there's going to be a tidal wave. And it was like horrible. It was so horrible.
Yeah.
Now, yes, this guy was like the best coach in the world, but that was not okay. That was not okay. And to this day, I struggle. It's still one of the issues that I still, struggle with. I married my wife 3 years ago. We've been together for 6 years. And up until last year, she had never seen my butt in the light. So that's horrible, right? Like that is horrible. It's terrible, right? And that is not okay, especially seeing that going into that, I felt good about myself.
Yeah.
Now I have worked it out enough where I can walk around now, naked in front of my wife. And it's because she is so loving and amazing about it. But like, we really need to, especially as coaches, think about how powerful 1 or 2 sentences can be and how detrimental they can be, especially for someone that was feeling okay about themselves in that moment. I don't know why I just got into that, but that basically, I mean, again, when we go to forgiving people and thanking them, I forgive him for doing that because I have to for me.
Right.
And in order for me to feel good about my body, I need to forgive him and just say he's ignorant, that's stupid, what a statement, it held no truth. But I thank him because what it did do is, I remember he told me that I should just eat lettuce and I would get to the weight I needed to start winning races. And of course I had a pretty intelligent head on my shoulders, and I knew I'm definitely not going to do that to my body. Like my body is doing amazing things for me every day. Like I need to love it and give it what it needs, but I will be more conscious about what I'm putting into it. So because of him, I really came up with a very healthy way of eating. Thank God I never picked up an eating disorder, and that's because my sister has been a bulimic since she was 16 and she's 52 now. So I knew I would never do that to my body because I've seen how much she suffers. But he was the catalyst for me to decide it needs to be a priority, what I put in my body and how healthy I eat and how I give back to my body for what it's giving me. And I ended up losing, 10 pounds and started winning races, not just because of the weight I lost, but because of the unbelievably hard work that I was doing every single day.
Right.
But we all, I think when it comes to our bodies, the way I see it, and this refers to our bodies and our minds, is that we need to every day be so thankful for what our bodies do for us, for our heart beating the millions of times or whatever it does every single day to keep us alive, for our minds getting us through, a long day of work and helping us learn new things and create more. Our bodies for physically, getting us through all the things we're asking of it. And showing that thanks to our bodies is by giving our bodies what it needs, by giving it, the good food that it needs to rejuvenate and recover and rebuild. The water it needs to stay hydrated and be able to continue to function, and just showing gratitude to your body every single day, not just by what we eat and what we drink, but by literally, I do like a full body scan and thank my body every day because it's such an incredible gift, having just been blessed with the heart that beats in our chest.
Yeah.
So showing your body that gratitude. And I think when it comes to appreciating our bodies, for me, it's appreciating what it does for me every day, just living and moving and creating and doing and thanking it for that. And when I thank it for that and show my gratitude and take good care of it, the weight just happens, just being the weight I want to be at just happens. I think when we take the focus off of focusing on, oh my God, I'm fat, I need to lose weight. I'm fat, I've got rabbits in a sack, I need to lose weight. The weight never comes off when that's your focus. But when you're focusing on enjoying life and experiencing and getting out and moving and getting your heart rate up and being able to move and celebrate the beauty of this gift of life, that's when your body takes on the form that serves you at the highest levels.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where my belief is now with all of that, which I'm so grateful for, because I think I could have gotten really messed up.
Yeah.
But I had too much love and respect for my body to allow that to happen.
Yeah, and that was definitely an obstacle that came up that you had to overcome, and you could have chosen another route. You could have either, gotten upset and went away and thrown in the towel, or, become a victim of kind of, this weight issue. But, that was something that you overcame, and there's issues that all the time on our road, whether it's to be a world champion triathlete or a top coach or whatever it is for you, there's always going to be obstacles, but it's our decisions and not, anything that happens outside of us. Things are going to happen, but it's our decisions that are going to move us from point A to point B. But Siri, really?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had a quick question for you. Wendy was asking, and I thought this was a great question. Is there any particular reading or let me see, I don't want to butcher a question. What mindset work? Is there any, I know this is a pretty broad question, but do you do with your athletes to help them move, up to that next level where they need to level up? What kind of mindset work are you able to do with them? Like, do you have any favorite books or anything?
Yeah. We do a ton of that work, because I think that really that almost carries more weight than the physical work, being in the right mindset and understanding that our minds are so powerful. And I prefer, actually, when my athletes are racing and training, I want them to be coming from their heart. I feel like when we're in our heads, when we're training or working out or taking on something physical, when we're in our minds, we're constantly judging ourselves. And there's enough judgment out there. Like, when you come from your heart, you're coming from a place of passion. You're coming from a place of, I love what I'm doing, and I love, getting out there and seeing how hard I can go, how deep I can dig. So it's getting into that heart space. I know for those of you that do the Tony Robbins work, I love all of that, because it's all about coming back to your truth, coming into your heart. But he does this exercise called priming, which I have my athletes do every single morning. And it's basically setting yourself up in your mind and your body in the best possible state to create an amazing day. And for me, the state that I feel that I really flourish in is a state of gratitude, focusing on all the things in life that we can be grateful for, including, like I said before, just the fact that we have this strong beating heart in our chest that was a gift. We didn't have to work for it. It's just there. It's a gift, and it allows us to do so much. Thinking about, so many people get caught up in what's missing, what they're lacking, what they don't have, what's wrong. And that when you're in that kind of a state, it's so hard to create great things in your life. Whereas if you come from a place of what's great already, what are the gifts that I have, what can I celebrate, what's good, what's possible, that puts you in a state where you are able to just create basically anything you dream of if you're willing to put in the work. And understanding as well, I mean, one of the biggest things I say to them is that, you're always going to have fear. Fear is a part of life. Fear is something we're going to feel when you're taking on something that you don't know if you're going to be good at it or not. You don't know if you're going to succeed or not. But you do it anyway. You dance with your fear. You use it. You appreciate it. You understand it as something that's going to lead you to feeling excited. It's going to lead you to growth. It's going to lead you to stretching and expanding. And also just the powerful understanding. Again, like in those 10 years from me beginning triathlon to becoming a world champion, I failed so many times. I was disappointed so many times, but again, I was either winning or I was learning. It wasn't failing. And when we embrace the tough times, when we embrace the struggles, when we embrace our so-called failures and look upon them as these are the times that I'm going to grow the most, learn the most, and therefore make the most progress. You see it as a necessary part of your journey. If you're expecting that anything that's meant to work out is going to be smooth and perfect, like that's going to prevent you from ever doing anything in your life, because the greatest things that you will accomplish, the things that bring you the greatest joy and the greatest fulfillment, are going to be those things that are the most challenging and that stretch you. So be prepared to have struggles, but instead of having them defeat you, have them give you the sense that, great, I'm going to grow through this. I'm going to learn through this. I'm going to make progress through this. And this is what ultimately is going to get me where I want to go. So the mindset practice is about gratitude, about dancing with your fear, about, realizing that you're either winning or learning. There's no such thing as failure. And understanding that all great things come when we step out of our comfort zone. And that is, I know it's a cheesy quote and it's out there everywhere, but it is the truth. We can all stay comfortable, and that's fine. Like, it's fine if you want to be comfortable, but we all deserve to celebrate all the amazingness that is inside each and every one of us. And in order to truly get the experience that you were put on this earth to have, you've got to step out of your comfort zone. You have to embrace that and celebrate that and enjoy that and come at it from a space of, wow, I get the opportunity to take this on, and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to find, greater appreciation for myself. I'm going to be, learning new things about me that's going to enhance your love for yourself, which is the most important love of all. So I hope that kind of answers your question, but mindset for sure is what you choose to focus on, what meaning you give every experience in your life, and what you decide to do. Yeah. And if you manage those three things in the best possible way, you are going to be able to achieve anything you set your mind to.
Yeah. And that's one thing Tony's definitely imparted with me over the last couple of years, is really learning to shift from being discouraged by challenges to celebrating challenges. Because if I'm in a challenging position, that means I can celebrate and find, the gratitude and thanking it for the opportunity to grow, even when I don't want to. But just having that tiny little shift and realizing like, oh, the struggle's a good thing, instead of, the discouragement that can sometimes, just pop up automatically when we feel challenged. But that's definitely been a huge thing for me. Oh,
absolutely.
So
one thing you guys should all do. Sorry, just to lock this in, is go back and think about, one of the greatest things in your life, and then think back before that. What did it look like before you achieved that? Was it all roses and easy and no problem at all? Or were there struggles and challenges? And that's what made, when you ultimately achieved whatever it was, that's what made it so special and so fulfilling. Look back, and when you remember that everything great in your life, came through growth, through struggle, good times and bad times, then we realize that is a part of the journey. And that allows us to not just say, hey, I'm going to celebrate the struggle because that's the right way to do it. But I know that in the past, that has served me, and that, anything great, didn't just come by with no issue, no problem. It didn't just get delivered into my lap. I had to work for it. I had to grow. I had to expand. And that's why I have this in my life now. I hope that makes sense.
Totally. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us and reminding of us all those amazing things. But I appreciate tremendously, and Wendy does too, I know, for you getting on with us today, even after your date with Destiny, part 2.
Thank you
so much. We really appreciate it. And I know I've got a lot of little notes written down, and really appreciate you taking the time to be on with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I hope all of you just continue to keep up the amazing work you're all doing. Amy and Wendy, knowing you both, you're such great inspirations and role models, and just continue doing what you're doing, because you really are making such an incredible, amazing difference in the people around you. So thank you. And it really was just awesome to be a part of this. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.